All right. So, last week we had a pretty boring week until the last day, and then we absolutely fucking crushed it. Now, I wish I would have held that trade a little bit longer than I did. If I would have, we would have made more money, but that's okay. The trade ended up hitting the target that I told you guys, that we'd most likely hit pretty quickly after we got off the stream, like within an hour. And then we also hit the furthest target where I said we would likely see some rebound, which is that daily fair value gap and a discount. So, judging just by looking at this daily, right, and we'll kind of clean up this chart a little bit. This, the daily is still bullish, right? If we look at the weekly, doesn't look very bullish. Like this weekly looks actually rather bearish, but I'll be honest, I could see either way. So like here, just using like weekly candle, structure, I guess we could say that, okay, well, the market's took out the previous week's high or the previous week's low. That definitely can happen. Okay. I'm not saying it can't, right? I definitely can see the possibility of that. What will confirm that a little bit more for me is if we were to invert this fair value gap or not see much of a reaction to this weekly fair value gap. So if we go down here, we have previous week's low, which is also going to be the opening of a weekly fair value gap. So that being said, the 4 hour looks like it wants to get sold off again. I think immediate target would be this, weekly or previous weekly low. Under this, just like we, formulated our trade based off reverse engineering an idea, under that is where I will start to look for, what's happening next if we get there. We could even sweep the high again. We've got a fair value gap right here on the 4 hour. Could even hit this, sweep up, maybe see a sell off. I see a lot of possible, things, but mainly would be leaning towards us sweeping this previous week's low, right? So if that happens, I want to watch how we react under that pretty vigilantly. And if we don't see much, if we don't see any kind of bullish structure under that or us getting bought up, then I would probably just look to trade even lower, right? And where? Well, you can use the draw on that candle's low, or you could even use this down here and kind of match it up. But got a lot of liquidity under that low, a lot of liquidity under this low. We've also got a fair value gap down here. So there's a lot of, targets we could look at. A lot of different possible things we can look at. So looking overall though at, this range, I think we will get some kind of bounce from here, right? From this range right there. I do think that. I think that it doesn't make sense for us to not just not get anything, but like where to. If we go to a 15-minute, okay, see that 4 hour gap matches with this 15-minute gap pretty nicely that we're trading into. I would almost be watching for an advanced market structure model to play out here. If it does, then I would look for higher pricing. But otherwise, I could just see us kind of battling between these two ranges. So when this happens and you see a lot of conflicting price action, I think that the best thing to do is wait until you almost see one side winning, if that makes sense. Like one side getting inverted or this side getting inverted. And once you have that, you can either trade to here or here, right? Sorry, excuse me. So going out to a 1 hour, oops. Don't want to delete those fair value gaps. Just going to use those as reminders. Going out to a 1 hour, it looks obviously pretty bearish. Got a shift right here with the fair value gap, unicorn right there. So, it'd probably lean towards the bear side again, like I said in the beginning, previous week's low, and then watching how we react to that level. If you just keep displacing through it, I think you can just pretty much trade all the way down and almost look at this as a larger market maker sell. Now, again, we want to wait and have confirmation of that, but, I can definitely see that happening. But I do see, like under this, right? Under this, I do see a big possibility for reaction. So again, just to kind of be clear here, I know there's a lot of if-thens. To be clear, I'm leaning towards us trading into this previous weekly low. After we get under that, I want to see what kind of market structure and what order flow presents itself. If we are clearly bullish under this level, I'll look to trade higher, right? If we're clearly bearish, I'll look to trade lower, most likely all the way down into these lows, okay? That's the scenario I'm watching with NASDAQ. So let's take a look at ES. lower in this range yet on ES. So if we're just looking at daily impulse structure, you've still got a decent ways you can trade to the downside, right? The first discount fair value gap is still a decent ways away. And if we're looking at that 1 hour, we've got SMT, looks like right here as well, or huge SMT there and on the lower time frames again, right? So overall, that makes me a little more bearish and looking to trade lower. So I would say just based off premium and discount and the SMT, that alone makes me want to see that low on ES. But again, once we get under these levels, that's where I'm going to be a little bit more kind of watching out for some kind of reversal. I will say if ES starts really, you're looking at the 4 hour. If ES just breaks under this and it doesn't really, if it really just breaks under that and doesn't see any kind of rebound pretty quickly, I would almost see this whole range getting clapped. And the reason I say that is just because look at this huge consolidation, right? Now, this is more forecasting. I'm not trying to say that this is what I'm planning to happen. I'm just telling you guys my thoughts as I have them. The overall trade plan or the immediate plan would just be to look for the low, right? That's pretty simple, which would be look for previous week's low on NASDAQ. What would confirm this even further is this fair value gap inverting, or maybe us getting nice reactions out of this fair value gap, right? But past that, just kind of giving you guys like my reasoning here. If we have this daily fair value gap, right? If we have this right here and it starts just getting inverted, right? And no bullish structure, I mean, you can just look to trade lower until proven otherwise, because that would be extremely bearish. And another thing is if you look at we've kind of just been bouncing off this level. We've swept these lows right here, forming all these little consolidations. So like where my eye always goes, like where's there's a lot of consolidations forming like that, that's just tons of liquidity. So it's like a magnet, right? The closer that you, wait, what is this? This is like a new setting. I thought that was going to be a meme for some reason. I don't know why I would have thought that, but it's like there's like little magnets everywhere here, right? That are just pulling price. It's kind of, you have to think of those levels. So the closer they get to them, there's a good chance they'll go all the way to them. So I'll clean up this chart. Overall, though, short term would be bearish here. Won't be trading Monday. Could even see some kind of range form or some kind of sweep. And before, we could still trade higher, but overall be leaning bearish. Looking at YM, I'm not even really going to do a big read on YM just because I don't trade it. I mean, if you guys really want me to, I might as well, because I'm sure there's somebody. If I look at YM, I would say it's most likely going to sweep out this high. Why isn't it locking? Oh, it's because I have this on. Most likely going to sweep out that high. It looks like it wants to. It's just very close to it. I'd be surprised if it didn't. But after that, I would be watching to see a 4-hour shift to the downside. You got a lot of equal highs over here as well. But for this, I just see it inverting. I mean, this is the reason I don't really like trading. YM, it's a great example. Like the market can be moving very, very efficiently for what I like to, strategies I like to use. And then both sides of the market here are just getting disrespected, and you have that consolidation on a higher time frame while the other markets are trending. So really, if I wanted to be, picky with trades here on a weekly chart, I would be looking to sell above anywhere in this upper quartile as soon as the 4-hour starts turning bearish. And I would just use that as a sell bias, right? Because if we're consolidating, I want to see a sell off from these upper levels or the lower quartile, because it's just at that point I would only look to trade back to equilibrium. Because if you see this market it's been teasing inside this range for some time, right? And the reason I pull this up, you're like, oh, well, that's convenient. How do you pull that up? How do you know when to use that? When order flow starts failing, right? We look right here, the market was above all-time highs, had a massive shift to the downside, creating fair value gaps. Guess what happened to all of them? Inverted. But then even that fails. We don't even take out the high, right? So this is where you start to expect consolidation, and then it happens again here, right? We invert this right there. Here, let me just draw this a little clearer. We inverted this fair value gap right there on the way up. Then next we come up and do what? Create another fair value gap, invert that, but fail to take the lows. Then we do what? Come back up and invert another fair value gap. So the market's in a consolidation or low probability trading conditions for the way that I like to trade, at least. You're just disrespecting both sides of the market. There are big moves, but they're not as easy to catch for at least how the way I trade. I always be very careful when I say stuff like that because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's killing US 30, but not me. Oil, this one I would still lean bullish on oil. Not really much has changed. I think we had mapped out this daily breaker over here with lows under it. I would say you're probably going to sweep that. Just looking at this chart, the way you're sweeping above highs here, coming up, and then it looks like you want to sell off here. Overall, I would say you're going to sweep out all this. But under that, that's where I'd be a buyer. So I'd be bearish into those lows, neutral to bearish. You are selling counter trend overall, I think. So I would be looking to sell into this, but quickly looking for buys after that. The dollar took out these trend line lows that we had talked about. It doesn't look like it has any sign of letting up to the downside just yet. I'm looking at a monthly level. I mean, it looks pretty weak. I originally thought we were going to come up here and trade from this, but it does not look like it. We could see some kind of consolidation form as well here on the dollar. I mean, we already have been consolidating for really since last year, if you really look at it on a monthly chart, right? So we could start to see, somewhat of the same ideology that I was talking about with YM. But I think that one thing I like to do in these scenarios is just look for trades back towards equilibrium or the 0.5 and look for levels around that. So, I mean, not to be captain obvious here. I don't want to claim like this is some heroic call. We're probably going to trade in this fair value gap. Crazy, I know. I'm going to write home about this call. But anyways, that's kind of what I see there. I mean, I'm not rocket science here for that one. At that level, I would be watching to see how a 4-hour reacts. But I don't think that the dollar is going to be very high probability. I think it's probably going to hit this and possibly even hang out around here a little while. We've had NFP, we've had FOMC, or have we had FOMC? We had CPI, NFP. My brain's broken. We have FOMC this week. Or it's not, I don't know if it's FOMC or if it's just him speaking. Yeah, it's just him speaking. Okay, so FOMC isn't to the last. Okay. I was like, I know there's one this month. So could see some consolidation, to be honest, just looking at for the dollar, like looking at this, like we're getting close to equilibrium of that really large range. We're about to hit a level, about to take out a lot of liquidity. We're looking at the week ahead. We have red folder news, but not a ton of like super impactful stuff. Yes, it will give volatility for enough for us to trade. I'm not saying we're not going to trade, but just for any kind of like large scale, high confidence bias calls on the dollar, don't really see it. For euro, but I would lean bearish. Again, let's just say lean bearish. Looking at euro, would lean bullish, right? Again, these are pretty obvious calls here. I just don't see big ranges. Like we're probably going to take out that high, not trying to be that guy and be like, wow, I called it. But, that's most likely what I'm seeing. Above that, I mean, we're above this trend line liquidity. So yeah, I mean, I don't see a ton of opportunity in the foreign exchange markets. Like last week, had some pretty confident calls this week. I mean, I do have confidence in what I'm seeing, but it's not really much. It's more like a waiting game once you hit these levels. With the pound, though, I just wait to see. If you form a fair value gap here, that could provide a clear setup higher. That's kind of what I would look for here. On a weekly time frame. Overall bullish until proven otherwise. Gold's probably going to make a new all-time high. I was probably off on wanting these lows. So I would probably scratch that idea for now. I would say overall draw is going to be this high up here. We inverted this fair value gap. So what I would be, if I was a gold trader, I'd probably just be looking for some kind of 1-hour entry inside this inverted fair value gap. See if you hold that. Right? And if you get some kind of very clear sweep on the 1 hour and a shift up, I would just maybe even swing all the way to all-time high. Be a pretty big move. Bitcoin, not much has changed. I would be surprised if we didn't tap into this. I haven't really made any changes with my portfolio. I'm pretty much just holding everything, just chilling. I think we probably will tap into this. The only thing that would really make me think we're not is if we get some kind of huge market structure shift in the daily. Otherwise, I think we'll probably make another low. Something like come up trade into here, sweep, and then maybe consolidate around. I could see this kind of play out until elections even. I mean, or maybe up closer to that point, closer like September, October. So don't, I'm not going to be trigger happy with crypto. If you're buying it, great. Just keep buying whatever you want to do. But until I get some kind of really clear direction, that's kind of, what I would, the game I would play with crypto. Cool. So again, just to recap, looking at NQ, I would expect previous week's low. Under that, watch for, it's just like an if then, right? So if we hit this level, what's happening next? If we are bearish here, that's going to be an opportunity to sell, right? If it's bullish, it's going to be an opportunity to buy. But until then, I would just look to trade here. On a more granular level, I'd be paying attention to this fair value gap right here and this fair value gap, right? Looking at the 15-minute, or sorry, the 15-minute as well, but looking at ES, we have SMT with NQ. So, we also have pretty bearish structure right here, bearish order flow in the form of this fair value gap. Also, we have an inverted fair value gap right here. We really have two. There's another, or no, I'm blind. I'm sorry. There's a wick there. Anyways, an inverted fair value gap right there. Got a breaker right here, right? So I would say this breaker would be a good level. Would then look to sell off here. If you don't get a reaction here pretty quickly in this area, I would, and we do get any kind of bearish, sweeps of highs, displacement down, I think this market could free fall a good bit. Oil would look to sell into these lows right here and then buy under it. YM, I think it's likely to pop another all-time high. But I'm just going to be honest, my confidence in YM is like 20%. I don't, the only reason I even look at this is because I think some of you guys may trade it. I would never personally touch it. Dollar, hero call here. We're going to trade another, inch on the chart to there. Euro, same with Euro, not much of a call there. Pound is the only one I see, and I would almost want to wait for another weekly candle to see if we form, a fair value gap through this. But overall, I'd be leaning bullish. The way you close through that is pretty bullish. So I'd be looking for like 4-hour setups, just trading 4-hour impulse structure, 4-hour liquidity sweeps on the bullish side. Gold, I think that you could see all-time highs. Would look for some kind of sweep on the 1 hour and an entry model right here, and look for a trade up into the all-time high. Crypto, just stay put. Like, just if you're really bullish fundamentally, I would be DCAing. But anything can happen. Like crypto can just crash to the pits, right? If the market crashes super hard, I mean, anything can happen literally, right? And if we look at like overall, like our yearly, quarterly theory here, we've had a pretty massive sweep to the downside away from this, but we haven't really, if we look at the, accumulation low, that's all the way down here. And I'm not saying that this is even accumulation because this is more of an expansion. Anything, I would say this, where we're ending with that last week is, or with this week, I'm sorry, is more likely the accumulation, right? Because it's more of a consolidation. So that's another reason why I would expect this to get swept. Yeah, exactly. Heisenberg XAMD. Cool. So that knocks it out for the weekly outlook. I'm going to stop this recording